Welcome back to this second session of our study. I think you're still online. So I promised you that this session we are going to be talking about characteristics and the purposes of these types of sources of information sources. We are going to talk about the primary source, its characteristic, and then its the purpose. Then we shall also talk about the secondary source as another type of the information sources, its characteristics, and the purpose. So, and then we shall also have a conclusion, of course, to wrap up what information sources is, its type, and everything about information sources. So I'll start with the primary source. Remember, I told you the primary source is the first-hand piece of evidence created at a time of event. So what are some of the characteristics of this primary source? Of course, one of them is originality. Originality is like where it is like the real thing, the real composure of the information. It is the originality. It is unfiltered, and this originality provides information about the particular event. That's why we are saying it is the originality, the particular event, the first class information of data. It is the originality, which is one of the characteristic of of primary source. Another one is the raw data. Raw data is like unfiltered data. It is the real first-hand data of information. It is unfiltered, it is unmediated, it is just still fresh and real. That is what we call raw data. Another one is the unmediated evidence. Unmediated evidence is like something like earlier on I told you unfiltered. It is unmediated, it is still new. It is new. It is also a characteristic of this primary source, and there is no interpretation. Remember, we said primary source is the first hand piece. There is no interpretation. We shall see where interpretation comes in. So examples of these primary sources, of course, we have like documents, we have creative work, scientific data. Those are examples of primary sources. Then the purpose of this primary source: they offer unfiltered data, providing first-hand data. It is the one we have been saying. The purpose of this the primary sources, for it is just to offer unfiltered information. It is still new. It is not touched on. They act as the cornerstone of original research. They help learners to get the original search, the one which is not added on information or duplicated. You understand? So let's talk about secondary source as also another form of information sources. One of the characteristics is that interpretative, which is interpretation. It is interpreted. Another one, it is they offer assignments, which is one of they offer information or opinion of assignments based on evidence that may be which was an example of a primary source, meaning that this is secondary source. Its characteristic is that it gives opinion. Someone can edit, someone can add in some information from the primary source. Interpretation is like widening, like understanding more what the information given on before is all about. Then it summarizes and explains more on the primary source. Earlier on, if it is secondary, remember secondary source, for it interprets, it organizes, it analyzes, meaning that if you have a primary source, secondary source, for it to really add in information so that someone can understand it more and better. Examples of these secondary sources: we have books, we have the journal articles, we have documentarians, like documentarian. It is like documentaries such as films, movies. Those are just secondary sources. They explain more about the information or data given. So the purpose of these secondary sources, it is to provide more information on the first data that make information wider and easy to understand. Then another one is interpretation. If you interpret it, you will understand it more, and then you will be able to apply the information where you want it to go. So as the summary, what I can tell you just is all about that these primary sources, they are just first-hand piece of data, whereas these secondary sources, for them, they come in to interpret and then analyze the primary sources, offering a broad understanding. Thank you for listening. I wish you well for now.